Today, on this special episode of Voices of Life, a ministry of the Church for Life, we honor the birthday of the first President of the United States, George Washington. By tradition, our country celebrates George Washington's birthday on President's Day, usually the third Monday of February. But today, February 22nd, is the actual birthday of George Washington, and that is what this podcast will be honoring today. George Washington, a general, a president, a man of courage, a man of conviction, a man of profound responsibility, and a man whose life shaped a nation that did not yet know what it would become. Washington was not perfect. He was human. He carried strengths. He carried struggles. He carried faults. But he also carried a vision for free people and a united country. Today we remember him not as a myth, but as a man. We remember him as a leader, a husband, a farmer, a general, and a president, and a soul navigating the complexities of his own time. In his early life, George Washington was born on February 22nd, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He grew up on the frontier of a young colonial world, a world of opportunity, uncertainty, and constant change. He was not born into great wealth. He was not born into political power. He was shaped by hard work, loss, and the rugged demands of early American life. He was a soldier that did not seek war. Washington's military career began long before the Revolution. He served in the French and Indian War, where he learned the harsh realities of conflict, the cost of leadership, the weight of decisions, and the fragility of life. He did not seek war, but when war came, he answered. In 1775, the Continental Congress chose him as commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. He led an army that was often outnumbered, outgunned, outdurfed, and underpaid. Yet he held them together with resolve, with presence, and with a quiet, steady strength that inspired a nation to believe in the impossible. George Washington did not seek power, but when the war ended, Washington did something almost unheard of in history. He gave power back. He resigned his commission and returned to his farm at Mount Vernon. But the nation called again. In 1789, he became the first president of the United States. Not because he campaigned for it, but because the people trusted him. He served 2 terms, established precedents, and shaped the office with humility and restraint. And when his service was done, he stepped away, proving that leadership is not about clinging to power, but stewarding it well. George Washington was also a husband, married to Martha Dandridge Custis, in 1759. She was a widow, a mother, a woman of deep strength. Their marriage was a partnership built on respect, shared responsibility, and mutual devotion. Martha stood with him through war, through winter encampments, through the presidency, and through the quiet years that followed. She was confident that he was a man that was selfless, that was always wanting to give, but cared enough to take care of his family. Now, she served as his anchor, his confidant, and his greatest earthly support. George Washington's strengths were not found just on the battlefield. They were not loud or dramatic. They were steady. They were constant, enduring integrity. He kept his word even when it cost him. Discipline. He lived with order, purpose, and self control. Courage. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Humility. He did not seek glory, he sought responsibility. And most importantly, unity. He believed that a divided nation could not survive. These strengths did not make him perfect, but they made him trustworthy. George Washington did have some struggles and some faults. He was human. Washington was a man of his time. And like all people, he carried flaws. His ownership of enslaved people. Washington owned enslaved men and women at Mount Vernon. This reality stands in tension with the ideals of liberty that he helped shape. But history also records a man who wrestled with the morality of slavery. In his later years, he became increasingly troubled by the institution. He was the only founding father to free all enslaved people under his direct ownership in his will. It doesn't erase the pain or injustice, but it shows a man who grew, reflected, and changed. Slavery at the time was an institution by many countries, not just here in the United States, but elsewhere in the world. History of slavery goes back to the Egyptians who enslaved the Jews. But it was part of the evolution of man in general, and societies, and countries. And I think George Washington knew that. Another struggle was an alleged extramarital affair. Historians have long discussed Washington's warm correspondence with Sally Fairfax, a family friend. There is no evidence of a physical affair, but the letters reveal a man capable of deep emotion, a man navigating the complexities of friendship, admiration, and human affection. Washington remained faithful to Martha throughout their marriage, and their bond endured for more than 40 years. But like any other man, he may have been tempted. He may have wanted things to go further. But the fact that he didn't says a lot about this man, about his integrity, about his loyalty. Now, Washington had a temper. Washington was known for a fierce temper, a fire he walked hard to keep under control. His journals and accounts of others show a man who fought his own impulses as much as he fought his enemies. But he did his best to keep it under control. He worked hard at it. And in the long run, he was disciplined enough to channel that energy where it needed to be channeled for the best of the country. The legacy he left behind is not perfection, it is perseverance, growth, and leadership. Leadership rooted in service, not ambition. He helped a nation that would one day wrestle with its own contradictions, a nation still learning to live up to its ideals. Washington reminds us that greatness is not the absence of flaws, it is the courage to rise above them. A lot of our politicians today could learn from that and learn a lot from him. And you take the best from a person and you leave the rest. So as we reflect and as we honor George Washington's birthday, we remember a man who carried the weight of a nation on his shoulders. A man who led with steadiness, who served with humility, who struggled with his faults, and who grew a conscience as he grew in years. I don't know, that sounds a lot like servant leadership to me. May his life remind us that leadership is not about perfection, it is about purpose. It is not about power, it is about responsibility. It is not about being flawless, but about being faithful. Happy birthday to George Washington, the man who helped shape the soul of a nation. Thank you for joining us on the Voices of Life, a ministry of the Church for Life. I'm Pastor David, and thank you for help honoring George Washington's birthday with me today.